By the end of 2025, something fundamental inside Russia's war machine stopped working. Not weapons, not fuel, not money, at least not at first. Manpower. For the first time since the invasion of Ukraine began, Russia reached a point where it was losing soldiers faster than it could replace them. And not by a small margin. The numbers stopped bending. They started breaking. And once that happened, every other weakness inside Russia's military system began to surface at the same time. It had to happen eventually. After nearly 4 years of full-scale war, Russia's primary ground strategy, overwhelming Ukrainian defenses through sheer mass, has collided with a hard limit. For most of the conflict, Moscow accepted extreme losses as the cost of progress. Units were rotated, wounded soldiers eventually returned, and recruitment, driven largely by cash incentives, kept the pipeline moving. That system is now failing. Russia has lost too many people in Ukraine, and the rate at which it is losing them has reached a level that the country cannot sustain. What was already Russia's most serious long-term vulnerability has accelerated into an immediate strategic crisis. The result is a future in which Russia does not have enough people, either to fight the war it started or to stabilize the country it is hollowing out. The Ukraine war has become a death engine for Russia, and by late 2025, mortality rates inside the Russian military were rising to levels not previously seen during the conflict. On January 8th, Al Jazeera published an analysis citing statements from Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and Ukraine's Commander-in-Chief, Oleksandr Syrsky. Both described a sharp increase in Russian deaths over the final 3 months of 2025. Their assessment was not simply that Ukrainian defenses were holding, but that they were now inflicting losses so severe that Russia was approaching a breaking point. According to Zelensky, Russian deaths began rising by approximately 5,000 soldiers per month, starting in October 2025. In his January 5th evening address, Zelensky stated plainly, "In December, 35,000 occupiers were eliminated, and this has been confirmed with video footage." He continued by placing the number in context. In November, there were 30,000, and in October, 26,000 eliminated occupiers. These figures refer specifically to deaths, not total casualties. That distinction matters. To understand why, it helps to look back 1 year earlier. In January 2025, Ukrinform reported that December 2024 was likely the most costly month of the war for Russia at that time. Russia suffered 48,670 casualties in that single month. However, that number included wounded soldiers, many of whom eventually returned to duty. Russian soldiers are no longer being wounded at rates that allow them to cycle back into the force. They are being killed, permanently removed from the manpower pool. Every death reduces Russia's future combat power and its post-war population at the same time. Oleksandr Syrsky reinforced this assessment in a December 2025 social media post. His reported death figure was slightly lower than Zelensky's, but his conclusion was arguably more damaging. According to Syrsky, Russian forces lost over 33,000 personnel in December 2025, based solely on confirmed video evidence. He emphasized that actual losses were likely higher. But then he added a line that fundamentally changed the strategic picture. December 2025, Syrsky said, was the first month in which Ukrainian unmanned systems units neutralized approximately as many Russian soldiers as Russia conscripted during that same month. That is the line Russia cannot cross, because once losses match recruitment, the force stops growing. If Ukraine sustains the operational tempo it demonstrated in December 2025, Russian troop levels in Ukraine will begin to decline even if Moscow continues full-scale recruitment. According to Kirilo Budanov, head of Ukraine's Military Intelligence Directorate, Russia's average monthly recruitment in 2025 stood at 33,583 soldiers. Russia's internal goal for 2026 is reportedly to increase that figure to 34,083. That creates an unsustainable equation for Vladimir Putin, and it is not happening by accident. Part of the reason lies in Russia's operational decisions, particularly its fixation on capturing the Donetsk region city of Pokrovsk and surrounding settlements. According to Al Jazeera, Russia concentrated up to 156,000 soldiers around Pokrovsk by December 11th. Large formations conducting repeated frontal assaults against prepared defenses will inevitably generate higher losses. But troop concentration alone does not explain the scale of the deaths. The primary driver is technology, specifically drones. Ukraine's rapidly expanding drone force, especially first-person view or FPV systems, has transformed the battlefield. Zelensky explicitly linked the rising death toll to drone operations, emphasizing that Russian soldiers are being killed rather than wounded. Putin spends around 30,000 soldiers' lives on the front every month, Zelensky said on December 19th. Not wounded, 30,000 killed each month. We have drone footage confirming these deaths. Much of that footage comes directly from FPV drones recording impacts in real time. Ukraine has not only scaled drone production, it has optimized drone lethality. One of the more controversial elements of this effort is Ukraine's gamified incentive system for drone operators. Operators earn points for confirmed kills, which can be exchanged through the Brave One marketplace for additional drones and autonomous systems. The Guardian reported on this program in November, noting that it had been active for over a year, and in August, 95 drone units were participating. By November, that number had grown to 400. The system incentivizes efficiency and volume, and the numbers suggest it is working. Ukraine is also producing drones at an unprecedented scale. In August 2025, Politico reported that both Russia and Ukraine had reached the capacity to produce approximately 1.5 million FPV drones per year. Both governments called for massive production increases in 2025. Ukraine succeeded. Retired U.S. General David Petraeus highlighted this during the May Kyiv Security Forum, stating that Ukraine's drone ecosystem was already beyond cutting edge. These drones are not just cutting edge, they are bleeding edge, Petraeus said. With more money, Ukraine could produce 4 to 5 million drones this year. It remains unclear whether Ukraine reached that figure in 2025. However, its ability to do so in 2026 has increased significantly. European Union leaders approved a $105 billion loan package for Ukraine, funded through EU borrowing. With those constraints eased, Ukraine can expand production further, suggesting that the catastrophic Russian losses seen in late 2025 may represent the beginning of a trend, not its peak. On January 5th, RBC Ukraine reported that Ukraine's Ministry of Defense approved more than 1,300 new domestically produced weapons models. Over 550 of those approvals were for unmanned aerial vehicles. This indicates not only higher production volume, but diversification. Different drones optimized for different missions, environments, and targets. United 24 Media quantified the impact. In July 2025, Ukrainian drones recorded 16,262 confirmed hits. During the final 3 months of 2025 alone, Ukrainian drones struck up to 100,000 Russian troops. Ukraine intends to exceed that number in 2026. If it does, Russia's losses will not stabilize. They will compound. Moscow's response has followed a familiar pattern: denial, deflection, and selective escalation. Reserve territorial defense units assigned to rear area infrastructure protection do not require offensive equipment. Russia is preparing Belgorod reservists for frontline deployment. In plain terms, troops who are not meant to fight are being pushed toward the front to replace losses. That decision carries risks. As reservists leave Belgorod, the region becomes more exposed, creating opportunities for Ukrainian strikes or cross-border operations similar to the Kursk incursion in August 2024. A weakened border is an attractive target, but Russia's manpower crisis goes beyond immediate battlefield losses. According to Euromaidan Press, Russia now faces a forced choice: either funnel recruits directly into Ukraine to sustain offensive operations, or divert manpower into building strategic reserves. At the beginning of 2025, Russia planned to form 17 maneuver divisions and up to 9 brigades. That plan assumed losses would remain manageable. They did not. According to Ukrainian military observer Konstantin Mashevets, Russia managed to form only 4 of the intended 26 units in total. Those units, the 68th and 71st Motorized Rifle Divisions under the Leningrad Military District, and 2 naval infantry divisions converted from the 155th and 336th units, were structurally weak. They lacked artillery, air defense, logistics, and heavy armor. Instead, Russia equipped them primarily with light vehicles. This makes Russian infantry formations significantly more vulnerable to drones, and helps explain the escalating death toll. Mashevets estimates Russia would need an additional 70,000 troops just to complete the divisions it planned for 2025. Brigades would require even more. Under current conditions, that manpower does not exist. Recruitment is failing. On October 20